exhibited it in their own theaters for the most part. And so the only way that Warner Brothers could remain a major studio was to have their own theater chain. The late 20s, they built a big house in Hollywood. In 1929, they bought Alexander Pantage's beautiful Pantage's Theater downtown at 7th and Hill and turned it into the downtown Warner Brothers Theater. And what happened at that point was they were planning to expand out to the suburbs. And because they had taken over Alexander Pantage's theater, they began working with his architect, B. Marcus Pritica, from Seattle. So Warner's decided to build 6 suburban theaters. They hired Pritica because of his experience, because they had just worked with him on remodeling. They took the 7th and Hill Pantages and pretty much eliminated every reference to Pantages on that building, both outside and inside, and changed it to Warner Brothers Theater. So they hired Pritica. By this time, theater styles were changing. Art Deco, although it wasn't called Art Deco at the time, it was just a modern, a more modern design. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody was flashing me with the light there. And Pritica was starting to experiment with that style. You saw it in the Hollywood Pantages, which he had already designed and which was under construction at the time. And if you look at this and go and look at the Hollywood Pantages, you see a lot of similarities. So he actually took one design for the suburban Warner Brothers theaters and kind of customized it to each site. Each site was different. Here in San Pedro, you see that the auditorium is parallel to the street. So you enter from the lobby from the side, go in. Huntington Park, you enter straight from the street, walk straight in to the auditorium. Beverly Hills, you did the same thing. So each one was a little bit different. 1929, as you all know, was a stock market crash towards the end of the year. Things started to change drastically, both for customers and for the studios. People were losing their jobs, unemployment was increasing, the studio outputs were decreasing, and all of a sudden Warner didn't need 6 new suburban theaters and probably couldn't afford to build them. So they cut it down to 3, and they actually started building 2 of them at the same time, the Huntington Park and the San Pedro Theater. Ground was broken here on June 18, 1930. They had a ceremony, of course, and as you can see from that article, they even had some stars there. Loretta Young, Walter Pigeon among them. It only took 6 months to build this theater. Kind of incredible. 6 months. You look at how substantial this theater is, and they built it over a period of only 6 months from the groundbreaking. One of the things that also happened was they hired Anthony Heinsbergen to take charge of this interior decoration. Heinsbergen was born in the Netherlands, came to the United States as a boy, and always wanted to be an artist. And he actually started working on theater decoration in the teens, early 20s, and by the late 20s had his own firm in Los Angeles. And he went on to do the interiors over 700 theaters all over the country. So pretty fortunate that he was involved in this building. 6 months of construction. You can see it's a really, like I say, a really substantial building. They did kind of a bold geometric design, and it actually kind of resembles carved wooden beams in a lot of places and stonework. So it wasn't kind of a floral and fluted streamline deco that you might see in other artist styles. Opening day, January 20th, 1931. A big deal for San Pedro. It made the front page. And there's a little excerpt from the dedication, a very modest promise from Warner Brothers. With much modesty, with a little pride, we dedicate to you, the Warner Brothers San Pedro Theater, our humble interpretation of your amusement needs, with the sincere hope that it may not be unworthy. I think they were safe in saying that. So the opening night, it was basically an all-film program. You can see they had a full stage, orchestra pit, but it was mostly, besides the appearances on stage and speeches, it was pretty much an all-film program. Warner Brothers had actually come down in the weeks before the theater opened and filmed a short subject in San Pedro just for the dedication of the theater. The main feature was Joey Brown, comedy Going Wild. And what did the people see? The finished product. Looking at the outside, a cast concrete exterior, again with just like the inside, imitating stonework, and with fluted columns running up the front. The marquee you can see says Warner Brothers, part of the original name of the theater, Warner Brothers San Pedro Theater. Look at that entry. I mean, very simple floor, but very effective. The diamond pattern in terrazzo that still exists out there. And what it does is ties in the theater lobby all the way from the street. The sidewalk runs all the way to the street, draws you in to the lobby. And look at that gorgeous coffered ceiling. And we're so fortunate that that still exists. Gives a little hint of what you're gonna experience inside. The lobby. As I try to tell people over and over, Art Deco was not just, there wasn't a line that said we're going from the old style to the new style. It was an evolution. And Art Deco was different with every architect, different interpretations, different degrees of change. So when you get in the lobby, it's not pure new Art Deco. The ceiling resembles old wooden beams painted with stencils. And then you bring in kind of the pilasters in the Art Deco style. The furniture in the lobby is kind of a combination of Art Deco and more traditional furniture. The chandeliers have a more modern look, and then you have those very modern portieres next to the furniture. Another view of the lobby, you can see that the carpet was a very geometric pattern, very bold. The carved and stenciled doors, definitely said Art Deco. But then you see some traditional accents. The end tables, some of the furniture, the chairs, not a very modern style. Then you walk up to the mezzanine. Wow, look at that ceiling. I mean, that is something that Heinsberg became famous for. Again, if you go to the Hollywood Pantages, you have kind of that same kind of ceiling in the lobby promenade, right outside the auditorium. Very bold, very modern vision on that ceiling. The auditorium, wow. And this is a very heavy, a very strong, a very masculine Art Deco. You look at what S. Charles Lee was doing at the same time, his Deco. Those of you who went to the Lemur saw Styles O'Clement's Deco, very different. This is almost, to me, almost like a combination of an Assyrian temple and Art Deco. Very heavy, very strong forms, resembling stone and carved wood. Looking towards the back, again, very unusual for a neighborhood movie palace. Most neighborhood